What is going on? Welcome back to the Relationship School podcast.
We're your hosts,
Ellen and
Jayson.
Yes. Okay, friends. We have a nuanced subject we want to talk about.
Yes.
In two parts. This is part one of a two-part podcast. And it's really about family and values. And the second part will be about getting your kids to do things you want them to do. The first part is to set up that conversation around family values. And it's a nuanced, complex conversation that Ellen and I have been talking out. So we're excited. I'm excited to.
Yeah, we'll see if we can have a nuanced, complex, and cohesive,
that's important.
Conversation for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and to set this up, that a lot of, most families, they sort of claim they have family values, and yeah, of course, but they actually never write them down. They're never agreed upon within the family. Of course, you don't do that with a 2-year-old, but with a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, you might say, hey, these are our family values, remember? Like, this is how we roll in this family. So you've got to decide at what point do you introduce these to your children, but you want to be living them every day.
And I think actually you can introduce them to little kids by, saying things like, in our family we don't hit each other. When we get mad.
In our family, we repair our conflicts.
Yeah.
We don't let things go stagnant.
Yeah.
We don't just go to our room and hope it gets better 3 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the big people need to live that.
Yeah.
And we also want to acknowledge how hard parenting is.
So hard. So confronting.
Yeah.
Such a forced up-leveling of our capacities and functioning on many levels.
Yeah.
And some of us have kids with temperaments that are particularly difficult or just outside the norm. Some of us have parenting and partnership dynamics that make this all hard. So we just want to make room for there's a lot. Please just factor in your own reality as you listen to this, what you're working with as a parent, as a partner, as a co-parent, whatever your situation is.
Yeah, and we also understand, single parents, it's probably more complicated for you. That's what I hear and see with my single parent students and clients.
It's more weight on one person.
It's a lot, yeah. And also, so we're also targeting this conversation a little bit toward privileged parents, privilege meaning you have the resources to actually look inward and think about these things. You're not in survival mode in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is targeted also at privileged parents.
Yes.
Yeah. And we are privileged parents.
100%.
Okay. So maybe I just remind people of my story.
Sure.
To start to sort of set this up. So my family never articulated their values growing up as a kid, but you could see them every day, and over the many years, you could see what my family valued. And we did value family. We valued time together. We valued travel. We valued sports and status. We valued my dad in particular. He was a really, really amazing athlete. So he wanted me to be an athlete. So I started to adhere to his values, which was let's be a competitive athlete because I wanted my dad's love. And this is very normal in families. And the work that we're talking about as parents that's complex is to try to hold on to your values and be true to your values as a parent, but also make room for your children's values. So I was a sensitive, emotional kid who liked nature and art and relationships. And that all kind of started to go underground because I was adhering to the family values. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what we believe is the most important value to have as a family, and we're going to unpack maybe 2 different types of families.
This is overly simplify,
just to
complex,
prove a point here and make this easy to understand.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking about one kind of family.
Yeah.
That's where the kids are compliant.
Yes.
And then we'll talk about another family where the kids are more defiant and emotional, and the parents start to get overly involved in the kids' emotions and let that kind of call the shots.
Should I talk about that?
Yeah.
So if you swing to another kind of extreme, if we were to polarize these ideas, some families find that their kids' feelings become really what's guiding the family, and doing everything they can as parents to not upset their kids and to make sure they're really kind of validating and honoring and being sensitive and, really focused on the child's emotions.
And this is typically people who are into personal growth, going to therapy, listening to this podcast.
Yeah, and are really worried about being authoritarian or, too strict, or having their child feel not included or not valued. Like they're sort of overcorrecting. And now the parents, what we see over time is those parents, they struggle for sure with their toddlers, and then they really struggle with their teenagers, and their teenagers, and they get really worried about their teenagers being able to be competent adults who are handling life's challenges and meeting them readily. They see that there's something, their kids aren't prepared, and part of it has been because the parents have lost touch with their values and their leadership in the family.
Yeah. So the two examples, my family growing up was the parents saying, "Come over to my values."
Yeah, we're all going to do
what Dad's values are, or Mom's values, or both of our values, and we're going to forget about yours. We're not going to tune in. We're not going to listen. We're not going to honor. We're not going to get to know. It's just, hey, it's about the parents and where they're dragging their kids, to whatever the parents believe in. Right? And then Ellen's describing the family where it's more
sort of the opposite.
It's kind of the opposite.
Where the children's feelings and emotions are what the whole family's orienting around, and trying not to upset, and trying to really kind of put all these pillows around the child and their feelings.
And the parents' values get left behind.
So what the parents like to do, how they want to spend their time, what they want to do with their family, it all gets put on the back burner unless, while they're focusing on the kids' feelings and not upsetting them, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so that family I think they feel kind of chaotic and like they're kind of held captive by their child, what their child wants to do or doesn't want to do. And so these parents will be like, well, my kid doesn't want to, or my kid doesn't like that. So we can't. That's what you hear from those parents a lot.
Yeah. Joey's sensitive. Joey doesn't like that. Joey, he's special needs.
He won't do
Joey,
that.
Like blah, 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 blah.
And granted, there are circumstances where kids need accommodations, but this family feels, in general, all the time, like they just can't function in a way that feels good to the adults. And then, so there are these two extremes where the one Jayson's talking about is more like there's no acknowledgement of the kids being these different entities and having their own realities and temperaments and feelings, and it's all the parents' agenda.
Yeah, so
hopefully...
Yeah, so we're just trying to set this up so that we can talk about what we're really talking about, which is the most important value to have.
That both these sort of extreme versions of these families could benefit from.
Yeah, and they both might say they're already doing, but we're saying, well, really, it's more complex and it's nuanced here. And I think the key thing is differentiation. So it's, can I, as a parent, hold on to my values, honor your values, and then between the two of us, parent-child, caregiver-child, we find our way together. And what's going to make us be successful is prioritizing the relationship.
Say more.
And so this being the value that we think we want you to put into your family value chart, or... Relationship
being the value that we want families to include, that the relationships within the family are a high value.
That's right.
Okay. And both these families, I think you're saying, might think they're doing that.
Yeah. Hey, we love family. No, we totally prioritize all the relationships here.
Right. Or
we spend a ton of time together.
We spend a lot of time where, all our resources are going towards family activities, or all our resources are going towards making sure our child feels cared for, and that we're sensitive to them, and that we're not upsetting them or pushing them to do things that are hard for them. But there's the real relationship piece is there's something missing there. And you were speaking to differentiation as a part of the value of relationship. Will you say more about that?
Yeah, it's like differentiated relationships are ones where like in you and I, in our relationship, we're differentiated well, and we had to work toward this because I'm able to be myself here. And I can tolerate that you're different from me.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. And that you have your own values, your own desires, your own wishes, your own ways of being, your own triggers. A well-differentiated relationship is where two people can do that. Go ahead.
Yes, but you're talking about a well-differentiated relationship between two adults.
Two adults, yep, just to set it up.
Yeah, and we are always working to try to stay curious about each other and not assume we know how the other person is going to think or feel, even though we'll do that anyway. But we really keep coming back to, right, you're a different person. You have a different nervous system. You have a different background and upbringing.
You respond to stress differently.
There's a lot we see eye to eye on. There's things we don't. And we have to work to collaborate and understand each other. And that's ongoing. And that helps us stay true to ourselves and also have each other's interests.
Yeah.
Like I can look out for your needs and your interests
without abandoning yourself.
Without abandoning myself. So it's complex. Differentiation is a complex thing that we learn through our development over time. And when we're dealing with children, this is really on the parents to keep cultivating differentiation over time, because of course we start out very merged with our children because we're very much, especially if you gave birth and you're breastfeeding and, we're very much like in one system, it feels like. But over time, as our kids grow, even by the time they're walking, there's a lot of differentiation that's beginning. And what that means is our children are starting to be their own person and have their own feelings and thoughts and realities. And as adults, we're trying to support that and make room for that while we also lead.
Yeah.
And because we're the adults, we're the grown-ups, it's our family, it's our world.
Yeah.
And we are trying to honor all the people who are in it, but lead with our life experience and our values.
Yeah, we're the master regulator. So we've got to do our work as parents so that when my kid enters what people call the terrible twos, or there's a lot of no's,
which is really just an intense stage of differentiation.
It's just a stage of differentiation, which comes online again in adolescence, where it's like, no, parents, I reject your values. I don't want to do that. I want to be me. And a lot of parents can't tolerate those two stages because it's like, it's a threat to their self, a threat to them as parents. And if they're unworked parents, they haven't done the work or been self-reflective, it's confronting to have your kids reject you and your values.
Or just be upset emotionally and struggle.
Yeah.
Have tantrums. Right. It is hard. Exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot to stay in relationship with.
All right. It's time to get very honest with yourself about your results you're getting in your relationship. And if you are like me, you didn't get a class on this stuff in high school or college. So relationships get complicated, right? But we created a course. I got so frustrated. I created a course called Relationship Mastery. It used to be called Deeper. And it's 9 months. It's a very big commitment, and people change their lives. One of the biggest outcomes they get is, I like myself more. I'm a better communicator, and I know how to have secure relationships. So it's 9 months. It's a journey. And I encourage you to come check us out here. If you've been thinking about this one, it's probably time, okay? Just look at the results again in your life and go, okay, maybe I need to learn some stuff. It's really just about learning and applying yourself. Here's what one of our past participants, Steve, said about his experience.
Yeah, when I came to the relationship school initially, I was in a really painful space. My marriage was challenged. My kids were young. Yeah, I was in therapy. Therapy wasn't working. I just found myself in this confused, scared place. I'd heard Jayson on the podcast and felt like I'm a Marine, and just hearing Jayson's voice and the way that he was talking about love just connected with me and made a lot of sense. And that was in stark contrast with the kind of therapy that I was getting. Like, this is like boot camp for love. That would be the easiest analogy I could come up with, and just say, like, having that level of structure, that level of support, that level of care, that I haven't seen replicated elsewhere. The thing I just want to share is just the level of enormous gratitude I have for, my life crossing paths with Jayson Gaddis in the school, and what that's meant to me on my life journey, and as a man, as a father, as a son, as a human being. Like, I wouldn't get to be the person I am today. I just can't see how that would be possible. And I'm just very, super grateful.
Okay, pretty amazing. Steve went on to graduate this course and go into our coaching program, and then go into our couples coaching program. He's an awesome guy. He worked hard, and he's out there helping people right now. If you want to go on this relationship mastery journey with us, go to relationshipschool.com/relationship mastery to find out more, to have a free phone call with one of our team members, or to sign up. relationshipschool.com/relationship mastery. So to get practical, I'm just thinking of a former student who, I'm just changing details in my mind here to protect identity, but a former student who, they went on a trip to Hawaii. Their son, they never went to the beach once. They stayed at their hotel and the swimming pool because the son had negative experiences around sand and felt sensitive and didn't want to go to the beach, and it was too scary or whatever. So the parents...
How old was this child?
This is like a 3-year-old.
Okay.
So the parents abandoned themselves and just went along and let the child's resistance run the trip. And so, of course, that turns into the parents resenting the child and feeling trapped and claustrophobic, but kind of stuck in this dynamic where, well, I'm honoring this is the family you talked about.
Yeah.
I'm honoring my needs. I'm being sensitive. I'm being relational. I'm tuned into my kid, and I wouldn't want to push him too hard because... And so the parents had to leave themselves behind because, again, the parents are undifferentiated. They can't say, you know what? I hear you don't want to go to the beach. It sounds scary. I validate your feelings here. Totally makes sense. And we're going to the beach.
Yeah, we're gonna go for
because
a little while.
These are our values,
and we're gonna just see how it goes.
And we're gonna go, and we're gonna titrate. And we're gonna listen to your tears, and we're gonna validate them, and we're gonna push you because we know that the beach isn't gonna kill you.
Yeah,
it's not actually the scary monster thing, and we want to help you learn to face some of the things you're scared of.
And we're going to be there. We'll support you. We're not going to let it be overwhelming. We're going to but we're going to do this.
Totally.
Okay. That's one way to do it.
So that's a practical example of an undifferentiated family who claims and says they have a high value on relationship, and they do, but it's not nuanced. It's not secure relationships. It's not differentiated, which is what we're really trying to say. Have a high value on secure, differentiated relationships where we honor and respect our own values and the values of our growing children.
And it really helps if you can be a team on that. If you have a co-parent or co-partner, you can help regulate each other around helping your child face things that they're scared of or that are hard for them, and how, because again, we have a lot of conversations we have had over time where it's like, okay, how do we push this thing we think would be good for our child in a way that has them feel supported, and we work together on that, and sometimes you lead that or I lead that, depending on who feels just more chill about it or whatever.
Yeah,
but
less triggered or...
it's it can be hard to do that.
So can we just do, before we end here, can we do one more practical example of the other family? So I just gave the beach example. Yeah. Right. Another family might, I'll just use my family maybe.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Since that's easy. And I know other families like the ones I grew up in, where it's like the parents, let's say, value sports. And you grew up in a sporting family like me, where I was sensitive, emotional, artistic, and actually not really that into sports or competition. But because there wasn't a lot of room, my will force, at a certain point, I just let go of trying, and I just went along. right? Because I valued relationship and belonging and being connected to them more than I valued trying to stay with me.
Yeah.
And then my parents were awesome and a little misattuned here and didn't quite pick up on all the signals that I was trying to give probably, especially early on. And then once I subordinate to their values fully, as a lot of kids do, the more compliant kids, it's sort of like they become the kids' values, and then the parents don't see, no, well, you value this, you love this. You love all these sports, you love doing this. And it becomes the family narrative that, no, we're all in this together, and look how good our relationships are, and look, we
all like the same things.
We all like the same things, and we do all this stuff together. Yeah, and that's sad because there's a big loss there. It's just like, oh man, years of missing the child here. And we see this, in our circles, and parents kind of dragging their kids along into their values. So that's also not differentiated, even though the report is, no, we do value family. We do value relationships.
Yeah, and we're saying let's up-level that value into one
more
that's
nuanced,
more secure and differentiated, where I think the truth is that probably everyone in a family has different values, different temperaments, different likes and interests, and there's going to be some overlap, and there's going to be some things that the parents are leading that you just do because it's your values and you want to offer that to your children. And then over time, you will see that your kids have their own values that are emerging. And I think it's part of our job to support that and make sure that we're also helping our children develop their values
Absolutely.
And their capacities and skills, while we also offer them ours, which we obviously think are good values. Like your parents felt like this was a good value to bring to you, and then they just kind of miss that you might have you did have, like we all do, your own emerging values that definitely weren't in line with all of theirs, and we don't want parents to miss that.
Yeah, time together doesn't necessarily mean the relationships are secure and strong, and that we're honoring everybody's values and unique expression while setting limits when appropriate. So, and I think we're suggesting too, we just recently did our family values, and relationship was the very top value in our family. And to just take another nuanced layer here, to us, correct me if I'm wrong, honey, means that we don't let conflict go unresolved in our family because we have a high value on this differentiated, secure relationship thing. So it's not like a lot of us, again, time together, hey, we do all this stuff, we spend all this time, but there's people are getting missed, their feelings are getting missed, or there's a lot of enmeshment, everybody's emotionally fused together, people are undifferentiated. It's sort of like I want our house to be a zero conflict, which most of the time it is. And when there's conflict, we all value, this is how we roll in our family as we work through it. We talk it out. We own our part. We empathize. We do the tools that we teach here at the relationship school so that we all are in a good place.
Yeah.
And we can be a high-functioning team and deal with the rest of our lives so that the home becomes this secure home base for everyone. All of us, not just you and I in our partnership, but our kids feel like, I can be myself here.
Yeah, totally.
I can let my feelings out, which some parents get really upset about. The kids holding their feelings at school, of course. They come home and let it all out. Well, that's a good sign. It means they feel safe at home to let their feelings out.
Right.
But then you got to learn, you got to be differentiated enough to know how to handle those.
Right, and not
let it derail your day.
Try to rescue or, all the things we might want to do or avoid, rescue or avoid, or just rescue or dismiss, really.
Yeah.
It is... Yeah, we really want things that are in our home to feel relaxed and good. Like people can get support here, people can recover from life here, and also get the support they need to go out and do things that are hard every day, like living in this world or navigating a classroom or dealing with something with a friend. Like we want to be able to recover and restore here, and also get the support for doing the growth and development work that we're all doing, even you and I as adults, and our kids are too. So
a couple other quick points. So if you please have whatever values you have, right, as a family. So sports could be your thing, or art, or nature, or travel. These are all awesome values to have as families. And by the way, values I didn't explain is not virtues like honesty, integrity, and stuff. That could be another list of like virtues we want in our family.
Right.
But we're defining a value as like the things you do and how you spend your time, money, and energy more.
How you spend your time, money,
Should have
and energy.
made that clarification up front, but whatever.
Could be health and well-being.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be a high value.
Yeah. So do all your values, but know that if you don't value relationship in the way we're talking about, when things get hard with health or sports, or you're on a trip and there's a massive family meltdown, if you don't value relationship in the way we're talking about, it's going to be harder. The values you are doing are going to be harder. And if your kid, for example, has a really big challenge in the sporting thing, and they can't come home and feel safe to like work through that with you and open up about it, and you guys move through it successfully, all their failures and the traumas that they're going to have happen to them over the course of their life. If they don't feel safe, they're going to, they'll do the sports, but they're going to be stuffing their inner life, and they're not going to talk to you about it, that's a loss.
Yeah. It's almost like having a high value on relationship coincides with growth and development too, because all those values that are cool and we should offer our kids are more enhanced if we have like a growth mindset around them, that like, we do these, we travel, let's say that's our thing as a family, and it's in the service of our growth and development. And so things are going to happen along the way that are challenging or interesting or inspiring. And we're going to, because we have strong relationships, we can metabolize all that.
Yeah.
So there's just, as I think about it, I start to get just even more three-dimensional around how relationship can not only support our values, but support our growth and development, and then our values become a vehicle for our growth and development. It kind of doesn't matter what they are.
Yeah.
But if we have relationships to really lean into and grow from, then we're becoming well-rounded adults.
Yeah. Yeah. So set the tone in early on too. As your kids become adolescents, it gets harder. No phones at the dinner table, for example. Because again, if we value relationship, we won't have our phones out at the dinner table looking at our phones instead of being together.
Right.
Cool. In the next episode, we're going to take this a step further and talk about how to get your kids to do shit that you want them to do. And a lot of parents of teens and toddlers really struggle here.
Yeah.
So we wanted to offer this, and it's just building off this conversation around valuing relationship. Yeah. Oh, and your action step on this one, I would say, if you're single, start thinking about your family values. And you might say, if I get married and have kids, or if I get married and have a dog, or if I partner with someone, these would be the values I would want to have. You can write that down. If you're partnered, get together and write down a family is two people. You can write down your partnership values, and then if you have children, same thing, and include your kids in the process if you want.
Yeah, and that really, it stems from our own individual values, and then as we come together, that grows and develops.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks. As you know, I've dedicated my life to helping people with their relationships, right? I want to solve this problem so that all of you can work through your differences and have fulfilling, amazing, badass partnerships and relationships, family, coworkers, friends, whoever. And I have trained a ton of relationship coaches, almost 100 certified relationship coaches, to help you specifically work through your relationship challenges. So I want to invite you to a special deal we're offering to the podcast listener, where you can get 50% off your first month of coaching with one of our amazing relationship coaches. Okay, if you're tired of therapy, it feels like that's going around in a circle, or you want to actually set goals and accomplish your relationship goals, hire a relationship coach. Okay, go to relationshipschool.com/get coaching now, and then use the coupon code FIRST50 to get the 50% deal off your first month of relationship coaching. Super psyched to have our amazing coaches serve you and help you get to the next level. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships, and you are one of them, so thank you.